Hello, how is everyone? I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. Depending on how long before I get this video out, I'm first going to mix some potting medium. I got some perlite, leca, horticulture charcoal, and of course orchiid bark medium chips. Here I have my assistant with me, Pantera. And I'm actually just tossing those three ingredients in like a salad, with the exception of the leca. That's for semi-water culture or by itself. I made sure to break up the moss well because I don't want big clumps soaking up a bunch of water. Less is more, key. That's just my preference. On the fertilizer solution, I got a gallon jug of just plain tap water. I hope to one day have a reverse osmosis filter. I found one that goes on the counter on Amazon instead of having to install a whole filtration system. Okay, so CalMag, seaweed extract, some Epsom salt, and of course the actual fertilizer. This one's 2014-13. I also have this Better Bloom 11-35-15, which getting into the ratios, they matter at a more granular level, but we're just going to stick to the basics here. I keep my foliar feed, aka seaweed spray, close by. I use pipettes and always have my tweezers and clippers close by. I'm doing my keikis first because they're in smaller pots that I can quickly submerge. I like to put some solution in there first, then pour it on the top. This is a perfect time to really look at the roots and check if there are any rotten or anything this orchid is anything wrong. So this next orchid is in Coir. I think that's how it's pronounced. I bought it in that type, I bought it in that type of medium. It was already potted like that when I bought it. So far it's really great. I love seeing roots like this. I'm going to do the same thing. Put the pot in some solution and then add some water on top. Because my shelf is a wire shelf that allows great ventilation, once the water drains, I let them be free from a pot. I prefer to see the roots easily and have the sun, hit them so they're nice and green. I know it's not good to use the same water for other orchids, like the same water with I hope that makes sense. But mama don't get a lot of time. There's like 20 some of these bad girls, so I gotta hustle. I gotta watch out for aerial roots. Lord knows I'm not trying to snap one off like the spike that Pantera took down. This one is in moss. I'm not a huge fan of nothing in moss, but I don't know what kind of moss they use. If it doesn't smell funky and the orchid is growing well, I just leave it alone. Make sure not to water too much, like frequently, and not overfeed. The moss will actually, I can't remember the details, so I'll just say it might degrade faster and crystallize. The salts crystallize faster, so just watch out for that. And would you take a look at these beautiful roots? They're nice and green, and there is a little bit of I don't know about that. It just looks kind of brown, blackish. I'll watch out for, how that's going to look later on. I trust that it might be that it was overwatered, and Here I have my cymbidium off the struggle bus. I don't know what exactly I did, but I'm pretty sure I overwatered it, and my daughter and Pantera yeeted it one too many times. Next I have my dendrobium. One died, and this one is definitely on the struggle bus too. I potted it in leca with some river stones to stabilize it, and called it a day. There's 2 little canes growing. I also just poured the solution in the pot. I tried to wear gloves, but they got in my way. So last time seemed like the solution either burned or dried the hell out of my fingers, so I tried to avoid that. Next I have my dendrobium. One died, and this one is definitely on the struggle bus. I potted it in leca with some river stones to stabilize it. As you can see, the roots are not very lively, but okay, the white ones I feel like are still good and could start actively growing, but that's just a theory. That's what I'm hoping for. And there's 2 little canes. There's 2 bigger canes, and I'm hoping that they'll continue growing and everything will be all right. I'm gonna pour the solution. I'm gonna pour the solution in the pot and submerge it, and then I'm gonna pour the solution over the top, same as I'm doing with the other ones. This is my limelight phal. I had this one outside for a while, and now I'm trying to recover it. It's in a terracotta pot with a bark mixture, and I'm doing the same thing as always. This is my bigger dendrobium. I'm not going to dump out the leca, but as you can see, there's active growth. There's white roots with green tips, so I'm pretty excited about how this one's doing. This is my Miltonia, and I have it in leca. Future me, I've already repotted all of these, and this one's got really good active roots, the white roots with green tips, and I'm really proud of how many, I think they're bulbs, and it's coming along. This one I've also repotted, but there's really good roots in there. This one is in a much too large pot, but as you can see, there's a basil keiki. There were so many leaves that came off of it. I had this one outside too, and I just neglected this one and didn't give it enough love and attention. But like the basil keiki, it has 2 roots growing, and there's another root. There's a good 3 roots that are growing, so it's coming right along. But like I said, there was about 4 or 5 leaves that died. There's a new leaf, so very good signs of new growth, and she is on the mend, about to start really taking off. That's about it for this one. Like I said, I have already repotted this one in a smaller pot. So moving on. These are my water culture phals. This one has blooms, of course, the white, basic white. This one's from my orchid arrangement. It came out of moss, and it wasn't doing so good. It started like immediately dropping roots, which I'm sure that was from shock, but it still has a lot of great roots. I decided to, so it's really hard to fertilize these. I decided to drop some leca and river stones to again stabilize it. I am putting a separate uh, thing of water, the fertilizer solution, and then I'm gonna dip it in there. This one is the orchid that keeps on growing. It keeps dropping leaves, and I'm not sure why. It continues to grow leaves and grow roots consistently, but again, like I said, it's not keeping leaves, and it's not keeping roots either. But like I said, putting it in solution, I'm not going to keep it in there too long. I'm just going to dip it in and put leca and river stones and then fresh water, because it keeps knocking over, and it's really hard to not drop water. Oh, this is my Vivian, what is it called? Vivian something mini fowl, and it was dying. Lost a lot of leaves, almost had no roots, and what was it down? It was down to like 4 leaves. But I have maintained the the white variegation. I'm gonna have to look that word up, but it's got the white little streaks. Vivian Sogo. It's a Sogo, and like I said, it's a mini fowl, and it's got a good amount of roots that are coming. This is another one that was very sick, had no roots. It's been in water culture for quite a while. That one root with a bunch of what is it called? I never can remember. Secondary roots was the one that was on a lifeline, and now we have several aerial roots, and then we have chunky green tipped roots that are extending into the water. The water also gives it some humidity to continue root growth. This one has been getting leaves, new leaves consistently, but it's kind of stagnated with leaves recently. It's got a like weird tip, not a tip, but like a tilt. It's got a weird tilt to it, but either way, I decided to put it in a glass jar to allow for the other roots to continue to grow. What is this? Oh, I'm just watering this one. I don't fertilize the ones that are in bloom. And this one is from my orchid arrangement also. And the blooms are amazing on this one. I can't believe how it has just been amazing. Secondary on secondary spikes. It's still blooming. The roots are amazing. There's so many roots. They're thin, like they're thin, yeah. And I have it in bark and moss. But I have recently potted it in a mixture with pearl, of course, moss, sphagnum moss, New Zealand sphagnum moss, and perlite with charcoal. This one has been in bloom forever, like last summer it started, and it did not have, it's always had roots in there, like decent roots, but I think it's grown more roots, and it has grown aerial roots, and now it's growing new roots. The leaves are pretty iffy. They have continued to be like an off yellow color, a little bit wrinkled. I don't know how to describe it, but the blooms are just now falling off. they're still active, like I don't know how to call it, not dried up, a few dried up blooms. And there's a new root coming in between the leaves. The leaves have been pretty good. I think only one of them fell off. My mom got this for me. I want to say it was around Mother's Day. See, that one's got a nice green tip. And there's a new root coming through right there, if you can see it. And I just try to leave it be. When my mom bought this mini orchid, I just leave it in the pot. I don't, if it's growing roots and it's staying healthy. Oh yeah, I got another leaf in there. It hasn't grown another leaf in a while, but it's just been so healthy. I had this one outside too, and it was, I want to say it was the only one that started flourishing while outside. This time last year. And what I do is just pour in a little water in the same pot, put it in there just for a little while. I want to say that this is a moss plug. It doesn't really look like a moss, but it's like, I don't know, soil. And okay, moving on. There's this one. It came in that glass jar, but I took it out because I don't know, it was drying up. It didn't look good. So I'm pouring. I think it's still in bloom. It fell off and now it's got a new spike, which I'm really excited about. Spikes are always so satisfying because then comes blooms. So as you can see, this one has plenty of water at the top to soak in, and I don't know, that's just how I prefer to do it. Love seeing those chunky, juicy roots. I am going to, what was I gonna do? I drain it out, and I like to look at, that's what it is. I like to look at the roots, give it a good, what is it called? Like appreciation. And I'm inspecting it to see if anything's rotten or what's growing. And that's it. I have shown you the watering and the fertilizing and the very basic pot mix. And I'll see you later. Bye.